let me get into how acceptance and commitment therapy and neuroplasticity can help you to habituate to your tinnitus so it no longer bothers you. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Tinnitus Coach Frida, and in today's video I introduce my whole tinnitus program to you, and I'll share a little bit about my personal background story with anxiety, depression and burnout this year, but also my tinnitus story. So let's start this from the top, and then let me get into how acceptance and commitment therapy and neuroplasticity can help you to habituate to your tinnitus so it no longer bothers you. I don't really have a lot of time today, so what I want to share with you today is a presentation I gave yesterday evening on Thursday in the symposium, tinnitus symposium, that was organized by a big hearing health consultancy in the US. Right now, after this short intro, you're going to see my whole presentation. It's about 20 minutes. I cut it short a little bit. Before we get into that episode, I want to share with you guys that, yeah, many of you know it, and it has been on my channel. I've suffered from burnout and depression this year, and I'm currently on my way to my therapist, so I'm also getting therapy sessions. So everything that I have learned in the past few years is very, very helpful also in my own situation. But of course, that doesn't prevent you from dealing with these kinds of problems yourself. And I've been trying to build up our online community for the past 2 years. I've been working with 500 plus people in one-on-one tinnitus coaching sessions for the past few years, and that has left some marks. And especially because I care so much about every single patient, I try to do my work exceptionally well. And what I forgot by doing this is taking better care of myself. And that eventually led to burnout. So in general, what I would suggest and what I want to talk to you guys about is very important, that none of these things, neither tinnitus nor anything else, is sort of a life sentence, right? These are temporary things that you might be dealing with or suffering from right now, but they're not things that will define you and that they will stay forever. So with that in mind, without further ado, I want to all get you into the presentation where I talk about my personal story, my background with tinnitus, but also how acceptance and commitment therapy have helped me transform insomnia, burnout and depression personally, and help my clients habituate to their tinnitus. And I've seen that in 500 plus cases already. So enjoy this brief 20 minutes presentation on the whole potential of neuroplasticity and acceptance and commitment therapy being able to completely transform the way you experience tinnitus. And if you are looking for more support, then go click the link in the resources in the show notes below, like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you think about this and whether it has been helpful for you, this video. So let's get into the video. Enjoy and let me know what you think. I wish you all a fantastic weekend. Thank you and goodbye. Yeah, let's jump into the presentation that I've prepared for you guys. My presentation, the name is My Journey and How ACT and Neuroplasticity Can Help You Achieve Long-Term Habituation. As I've mentioned already, I've been born deaf in my left ear and have been living with severe tinnitus and a hearing aid in my remaining right ear for the last 15 years. And in today's story, in today's presentation, I want to share with you how the principles of acceptance and commitment therapy combined with principles of how the brain is able to rewire itself, how neuroplastic changes can drive the brain to no longer see tinnitus as a threat, and how that has enabled 500 and people counting towards tinnitus relief. My background, as I already told you guys, is I'm the founder of mytinnitus.club and outeringtinnitus.com, which is the coaching service that I've mentioned, which I founded in 2019. You can also see here in the screenshot from the phone that I'm the creator of a quite successful tinnitus podcast by now. You can find it on all the major podcast platforms, where I have interviewed many scientists and people that I have worked with who shared their success stories in the tinnitus podcast. But let's get back into it a little bit. And today I want to start off by sharing my personal story. What you can see there on the right is me being in Amsterdam in King's Day when I was still a relatively young student in the Netherlands. I studied in the Netherlands and later in South Africa. And in this particular day is not because I'm such a social guy and I used to drink a lot of beer, but I'm sharing this one here because that is the night where I had a particular large amount of beer, and that resulted in me not realizing that my earplug fell out when I was dancing in front of a speaker in the middle of the night. Because I was already aware of my hearing difficulties. Since 2019 I've had tinnitus, and shortly thereafter I started wearing a hearing aid because I realized that it was difficult for me to understand speech, etc. in the class at university. And yeah, so I was quite aware already of my hearing deficit and my difficulties, and that was about 5 years after my initial tinnitus onset, and I was already wearing a hearing aid at that time. But yeah, you're young and in that instance, particularly stupid. So after a large amount of beer on that particular day of celebration where Amsterdam is completely full of celebrating people the whole night and day, unfortunately, I made my tinnitus significantly worse. And of course that went with a lot of feelings of shame and guilt and not knowing how to deal with the situation, as this was one of the first times that I've had such a massive increase in my tinnitus since the first onset in 2019. And it was quite difficult because I was also writing my bachelor thesis at the time, and I was going through a personal breakup with someone I had met in my exchange semester in Korea. We all know these little stories. And so that was a time that really taught me how deeply people can suffer when experiencing tinnitus. And I've already had tinnitus, and I've already had this one deaf ear. So I was already quite aware that I needed to be very careful with my hearing story. And yeah, I was overwhelmed by the effects that nothing could be done. I went to a doctor in the Netherlands, and he said that, for example, the steroid injections is not something that is considered that they would still do, because they would only do that in very, very severe noise trauma events, because the benefits wouldn't outweigh the risks anymore. And I felt completely alone. I didn't really know how to deal with it, and that was sort of my initial sort of moment where I realized how difficult things can get for people with tinnitus. After then studying and working in a few other places, I finally found that I shifted my mindset from, wanting to control tinnitus or, trying to get rid of it somehow, to a change in response of how I deal with it. And what the main goal for me right now and for my clients, I think, is, not to hope that there will be a cure or a more permanently medically reduction of tinnitus available, which, if it's safe and effective, then I would obviously consider that myself. But for me, the hearing loss is the most important thing to treat. But in my opinion, it is the goal of habituation that can offer complete and lasting relief for people with tinnitus. While I'm sitting here, I can hear my tinnitus blaring away. I can go outside relatively close. We have a 4-lane street, and I can hear my tinnitus over that street. But I'm not bothered by it. So habituation, in my opinion, is the complete absence of a negative reaction to a benign body sensation, a symptom, if you will. We know that tinnitus is now classified also as a disease, but it is not the sound that's classified as a disease. It is the ensuing psychological and physiological effects and aspects of tinnitus that classify it into a disease and not a symptom anymore. The sheer experience of tinnitus is still a symptom. So the experience of a sound, hissing, buzzing is a symptom and not a disease. And it is something that is absolutely normal in 20 to 25% of the average population. So habituation is something that is achievable for anyone. I always say, if you're human and if you have a brain, then you can reach the stage of habituation and can get to habituation. And in order to reach that stage, what I have found personally in my journey of also dealing with insomnia a lot, I have found acceptance and commitment therapy to be incredibly valuable and helpful in helping the brain to shift the perspective from the constant observation of tinnitus, from the constant physiological response of anxiety and fear towards a completely different one. And in a moment, I want to share a little bit with you how we use these tools of acceptance and commitment therapy called ACT and neuroplasticity in order to get people to habituate to their tinnitus. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about acceptance and commitment therapy in general. Many of you, especially the practitioners amongst us, know that acceptance and commitment therapy is sort of like an additional wave extension from cognitive behavior therapy. And in general, if we want to describe it like this, acceptance and commitment therapy is an extension of cognitive behavior therapy because it doesn't only go with thought challenging and maybe enable you to rephrase your thoughts and think them in a different, more positive way. But it also, and this is one of the most important things that I have found, it also allows you to accept any feelings and emotions that you experience in response to your tinnitus, which, often people run away from. I'm not a particular big fan of masking the tinnitus because you only mask your reactions to the tinnitus. So therefore, my personal opinion is one of the most extensive tools in acceptance and commitment therapy is exposure. So if exposure is done right, we can, limit the impact that tinnitus has on the brain. And we also know that, if we want to break the cycle of stress, the focus on tinnitus increases through the stress, that makes more anxiety, and that anxiety leads to an increased perception. And with the ACT intervention, we can, say, well, it's quite, it's quite uncomfortable to be dealing with this and with all the problems, concentration, sleep, etc. But we can start to accept the thoughts and feelings, not the tinnitus, but we accept that there are negative thoughts and feelings around us, but they cannot harm us. With that, we can shift our focus onto more valuable things in life. For example, our work, our relations, we create values. We actively look for values that are most important for us in our life, that induce a focus shift. Yeah? So I'm no longer constantly paying attention to my tinnitus, trying to solve a problem that doesn't need to be solved, but I am trying to establish my values and the things that are most important for me in my life, and I live after them. And by that, I start teaching my brain that I don't have to continuously be paying attention to my tinnitus, and that generates a peace of mind that for many of my clients is never seen before as long as they have experienced tinnitus. And that overall, of course, reduces the distress and reinforces acceptance. So you slowly but steadily climb out of that muddy hole that is the tinnitus, the thoughts about the tinnitus, the physiological reactions towards the tinnitus. So the anxiety that comes with the tinnitus, the sleepless nights that comes with tinnitus, this big ball of like messy stuff, that comes with tinnitus experience. We can resolve that with acceptance and commitment therapy. And it is not a quick fix. This is really, really, really needs to be enforced, right? People say like, okay, I accept my feelings and then my tinnitus should probably be better. This is not a quick fix. This is not a quick tool. This is practice and a lot of long implementation and trying what works for you best, right? And this is very individual. That's why most often when we come to talk about the program and the courses, etc., that we have available, I will tell you that often I also do one-on-one sessions with my clients in order to reinforce the principles that they learn through the online courses, etc. They don't have to if they don't want to. If they want to learn it all by themselves, then that's fine. And then we still have the weekly group coachings where we discuss all these settings. But I think it is very, very important to be able to reinforce this. So we have a completely opposed cycle of intervention, of getting people out of this constant cycle of anxiety, increased perception, stress, focus. Yeah. So we have a completely opposite intervention that is not focused on changing anything. It is focused on allowing things to be like they are and to slowly but steadily realize that we've had an automatic process of responding to tinnitus rather than really paying attention to what is going on with me in the present moment. And, for me, it is most important that I can experience my tinnitus simply as a background noise, even if it is very loud. And, with my personal story, I think I can convince people that if it is possible for me and for many of the people who, I always say everyone who is probably listening to this talk and who has tinnitus has probably the loudest tinnitus. So that is probably something that's very, very important to mention, that I think everyone, and it's quite natural, right? We all want to feel better. We all want to be happy in life, but unfortunately that's not what it is. So often you hear from someone, I think my tinnitus is just the worst. And that always makes me laugh a little bit, because I have no idea how often I have heard this already, how that their tinnitus is absolutely the worst. And let's go on and talk a little bit about neuroplasticity and how it supports the process of acceptance and commitment therapy. Neuroplasticity, for those who maybe don't know so much about it yet, is simply the brain's ability to adapt with new habits. It is not only habit formation, it's also learning. And so, for example, if you learn a new language or something, your brain is able to make the neuronal connections and to lie down the neural pathways for you to be able to remember and to shift from short-term into long-term memory. And this is a crucial factor when it comes to tinnitus habituation, as you can almost consider it a little bit like Pavlov's conditioning, where the scientist rings a bell before he goes to feed the dog, and then after a couple of weeks, when he rings the bell, the dog starts to salivate. And this is almost the same with tinnitus. The stress response that we've seen in the previous slide is kind of like, always I hear the tinnitus, oh, I know this is something dangerous, and it always makes me feel this particular way, emotional, anxiety, fear, anger, etc. And then therefore that reaction ensues, right? So it's very important to knowing that you can also change that reaction in the way that, let's go into another example. If you've been bitten by a dog, and then every time you walk over the street and you see a dog, then very surely your fear and panic based center, the amygdala, will tell you, oh, there's a dog, you probably should avoid it. But when you start to get introduced to another dog, maybe your friend's dog again, you can slowly but steadily learn that not all dogs are harmful and that not all dogs will bite you, and you can change and shift your relationship with the dog. It's very important that this is something that's happening every single day in our life, and that governs a lot of our experience and our survival as well. Because if all of these things were not partly automatic, then it would be very difficult. Think about if you had to learn how to make a cup of coffee every morning anew, then you would have a lot of challenges with very basic tasks in life. So it is very, very important that we say that in combination, acceptance and commitment therapy together with neuroplasticity allow us to reduce the emotional and cognitive responses to tinnitus and focus on more important things. And the outcome will be that the tinnitus over time becomes a lot more prominent, and the brain starts to tell your subconscious, and you will start to learn and feel it as well, that tinnitus loses its importance over you, as you're teaching it that even with tinnitus you can do all the most important things that are valuable to you. And now I want to come a little bit into what we have created, or what I have created with mytinnitus.club. As I shared at the start, I've been working as a one-on-one coach for many years, and about 2 years ago I founded mytinnitus.club, which is a community that is based on acceptance and commitment therapy, as well as a lot of other tools that we use. This year we had a full month of self-compassion, and they always get added at topics, so people can always rewatch the videos. And then we also did tinnitus and stoicism. This month of November we do patience in the habituation process. We will do tinnitus and finding joy again, all these kind of little topic month. And then we always have events. And of course, what I think is really, really important is that, of course, we have everything that other prominent apps have as well. We have curated courses and spaces where people can learn everything they want to know about deepening their practice of acceptance and commitment therapy. But we also have weekly group coaching sessions where people, they get to share and learn what they need to know in response to their tinnitus, and then also in the long run, to implement that in the weekly coaching sessions, to be able to assess, okay, what is working well, what is not working well so much. So we have, for example, accountability check-in every 2 weeks. That is an event where we set up goals for every individual member and then see whether they have been able to achieve their goals, or if not, what we would have to change. And one of the most important things that I always think, and is completely underrated in my opinion, is the peer support, so that people support each other and people feel supported and understood by other people, because it legitimizes the suffering. It is absolutely normal that people suffer with tinnitus, and some people suffer very deeply with that tinnitus, and we have these stories of people mentioning going to very dark places. But it is normal, and you're not the only person feeling that way. So I think what many of the other apps lack out there is a sense of connection and a sense of community, where people feel like they can talk and voice their concerns, but they also have someone like me who's been dealing with this for 15 years, who is fully habituated to very severe tinnitus, and who tells them that their suffering is absolutely legit, but there's a path out of it. And together, if people connect and share what has most worked for them, and know that they're on their individual path, we can really transform that suffering and make people feel supported and know that they have a place to go, even if they're having a difficult time. So the weekly habituation techniques, for example, we had Halloween events, Halloween party. We have mindfulness events. We sometimes do mindfulness exercises at the start of every session, beginning it with a little sound gong, something that I like to do myself for staying present and mindful in all the work that we do. And I'm a fan of everyone being able to find whatever they need and combine a certain tool sets and resources for them to be able to find their own individual path to tinnitus habituation. And what, of course, we want to do is empower all of our members to be able to deprioritize the tinnitus, change the impact that tinnitus has on their life, and finally habituate to tinnitus in the long run. And it's absolutely crucial as well, I think, in tinnitus management, that even if people have come very far, to know that it's absolutely normal that people have setbacks. It's a normal part of the habituation journey. So everyone who is on this call and maybe recently had a setback or a spike, it is normal that you are encountering these setbacks. And then it is very important that you refocus yourself towards your values and the things that are most important, and to see what is actually keeping me stuck, or what are actually some thoughts and behaviors in my current life that make it difficult for me to go further in my habituation journey. And often we have that people share very personal insights on resilience and how they've been able to, control their reactivity, not only towards tinnitus, but also towards other things in their lives. So finally, I want to share a quick story that one of the members said. She said, all I can say about this tinnitus program is, wow, I wish I'd found it sooner. Frida has been amazing in my journey, and the club is full of lovely people willing to share their stories and offering their help. If you're struggling and you're thinking of joining, do it. You will not regret. And Dawn said that you'll never feel like you're alone with this condition again. So something that I really, really appreciate. And I'm very happy that we can offer the space for people with tinnitus all over the world. And it's a program that's also accessible all over the world. Finally, I want to invite you or to invite people who want to create their tinnitus success story to join us for a 7-day free trial to experience the benefits of our journey. You can scan this barcode, and we will show you what you can do in order to live your best life despite tinnitus. Join us for weekly coaching, for a lot of resources and a supportive community. And my personal belief is that tinnitus doesn't have to control your life, but that we can help you find long-term lasting relief that is not bound to certain concepts, but is bound to your individual journey and finding out what works for you. You can find me and all those resources at www.mytinnitus.club. It was a pleasure to speak here to you today. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity, and I wish you all the best and a lot of fun in this online symposium. Thank you for listening. So yeah, thanks guys for tuning in. I hope you did like the presentation. My session at the therapist was good, but I'm ready for weekend now. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. If you're looking for support, then there's a link in the description below where you can find a link to the free trial to our club, and also where you can get added to the coaching waitlist that I do for my one-on-one coaching program. And I hope that this has been really helpful for you, and I wish you all a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye.